Good neighbors, what's going on? It's Phil Russert. It is Tuesday night. I hope your week is going well, and I hope that it continues to go well for you. As you know, we're always either talking to major Marvel DC creators or we're talking to some of the up and coming indie creators that may very well be that household name someday. We love to do this. It's all about the passion for comics and the medium. And what better way than to talk about indie comics and an up and coming brand new comic, which kind of crosses genres. But anyway, tonight we're going to reveal the final cover to a book called Madcaps that is up and coming. It's coming out this I believe this winter of 2024, and we have the writer creator on with us tonight. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Ray Jameson, aka on Facebook DM Ray. What's up, buddy?
Hello, good to see you, Phil.
How are you doing, man?
No complaints. Happy to share some more art with fellow art connoisseurs.
Very cool. Freddie's here. He said, "Hey, hi, Philip," hello. That's Alex Sarabia's brother, actually. Freddie is an awesome guitarist, by the way. Dude is a
Right
shredder.
on.
Oh, he's amazing. So anyway, for those of you who don't know who Ray is, you're gonna find out tonight. Hey, Kenny, what's going on? You're gonna find out tonight, and you're gonna look at some beautiful covers. Which Ray is a kindred spirit to me because he knows do it 100% or don't do it all, and that's how I feel. And the covers that have already been put out there are by professionals. Jimbo Salgado, you've got Dan Kemp doing colors. Some really great stuff. The covers look top notch. We're going to show those, discuss them, and then we're going to do the reveal, which is another great cover. So let me ask you, being new to this, what was your thought process coming into, wanting to launch a book?
To launch a book, I really like stories. I play a lot of tabletop RPG, and essentially it's kind of a mix of starting a story but letting players finish it. This comic is actually based off of the first, what they would call a homebrew tabletop RPG, which is essentially there's no modules or anything. Everything is made up in under my terms. I'm not drawing a lot of inspiration from other content. I decided to take that story and change the players, or not the players, but the characters with my own and based them off of people I know. And the story kind of wrote itself, which I assume you've written your own stories. I assume you understand the dynamic of when something starts to write itself, it feels right, So once I finished writing it, I looked around. I found a fellow Winnipegger who has done some beautiful interiors, nothing I've shown yet. Shout out to Evan Quiring. You can look up his stuff. Murder City Devil, Lucha Mysteries is another good one by him, of Cyclone Comics. And I shared the first issue with him, and he started penciling out the interiors and eventually inking. And while that was happening, much like you mentioned, if you're going to do it, it can't be half an effort.
Right.
So I started reaching out to artists that were either advertising that they were open to commissions or just something that would strike my eye. And you would know yourself, if you are asking somebody, hey, would you be able to make a picture? They're more likely either going to say, it's not just the yes or no, it's you got an answer. But if you didn't ask, it's a guaranteed no if you don't ask, right? What's that phrase? You miss 100% of the shots you take. So Jimbo Salgado was the first person I reached out to. He did our main cover.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
I definitely a fan. That guy could probably draw a matchbook and make it amazing.
I'm going to put that cover up while we
Absolutely.
talk.
That's also colored rather by Dan Kemp. Dan Kemp, for anybody, I'm sure everybody listening has heard the name, but he's done over 100 issues of Spawn, from basically a little bit before issue 50 to a little bit after 150. And top tier, he's in the top echelon in colorists, in my opinion. Dan Kemp on Jimbo's inks I had a couple of fans comment saying things like, "It's amazing you got these two souls to cross paths." And that's kind of really satisfying to me, because if you have connoisseurs of art that really like these fingerprints that these artists weave combining, I know I'm doing something worth showing to everybody else.
Well, see, that's the thing. You being new and you coming out of the gate, and I've not too long ago I was here. You understand the visual medium, the visual aesthetics that is a comic book, and nobody knows what a great story is by looking at the cover. They know it is by picking up the book and reading it. So that cover's got to drag them in. It's got to make them go, "Oh," and take a double take.
It's got to be a
And
statement.
yeah, so I mean, this cover makes a statement. Not only does it show some interestingly designed characters, which we're going to get into the characters, but with Jimbo's line work and then Dan's colors, this is a badass cover, man. I mean, it stands out in a sea of, if because you got to remember, whether it's a sea of Kickstarters or a sea of covers in an LCS, that cover's got to say, no, 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 pick me. And this cover says pick me resoundingly. So
I really
beautiful, beautiful
appreciate that.
job.
I could take credit for the facilitation, but the all the praise I feel goes to Jimbo and Dan. That's for sure.
Yeah, amazing. Jimbo did a cover for me not too long ago, and it's just you can't go wrong. It's just insane.
That one was
Absolutely.
for Tragedy, correct?
Yeah, yeah. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you. I was just talking about Jimbo. I don't like to talk about my stuff as much as possible. We're here for you. I appreciate that. But
For sure.
um, so who are these four characters on the cover?
Well, these are four friends. None of them are human. They grew up in a little town called Ivywood. It's more like a large town than it is a small city. And there is well established. It has an infrastructure. It's not like a bunch of paupers putting a pitchfork to hay, if you will. But as you can see in the cover, it's medieval fantasy setting.
Which I love.
What if you go to the next cover? Maybe I'll go one at a time over these characters.
Sure.
So this is done by Jenna Stark in New York.
And that's painted,
Although
right?
it's digital, it's done with a style to make it look like it's brushstroke.
Very
The
nice.
technique she called it was painterly. She did everything from soup to nuts. The line work, the coloring, that's all her. Basically this fella, his name is Dunan Eni. He is actually half dwarf. His other parent is a gnome, and he's discovered he has some unique abilities, some talents, if you will. Unlike his mother being a gnome who can influence the nature around her, he appears to have an influence on metals and alloys and crystalline structures. So he made a little contraption. You can see it there over his shoulder is a telescope, but it can blast raw arcana out of it. As you can see in the foreground is the tree he was hitting, and then the expression
Right.
on his face is equal parts excitement and satisfaction.
Very cool. I'm sharing you into a bunch of groups, the show, just so you know, if you're wondering.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm in like
He's
40
about
something groups.
he's 3'10", so his height is similar to that of a child, being shorter parents, obviously. Unlike your average dwarf, he's not a full-blooded dwarf. He can't really grow a beard well. He draws from both bloodlines, but he is has a hard time with fitting in with either culture.
Now, I know we're not going to get too deep into the book itself right now, but is this a single floppy 24 issue, or is this larger than that?
My apologies. It is 3-issue miniseries. Each issue is 22 pages. The entire book takes place, or the entire miniseries rather, takes place over one night. If you've ever, I'm sure every human being, when you get old enough, there's certain circle of friends you don't get to see nearly as often. But
Yeah.
that one time they get together, not only is it awesome, even though the things you used to do, be it shenanigans or something a little more credible, it might be like an 85% of the old days, for lack of better wording. But when you leave, usually the person is satisfied to a point. They don't realize, man, I really needed that. This
Right.
book is supposed to, it's almost like an homage through an expression of medieval fantasy of that essence of camaraderie. And this book is literally about four friends meeting up, a little tiny story. Each issue is 3 acts. The rest of the plot I will be revealing in January, early January, like the first week.
You got me hooked just on medieval fantasy. I don't think this is the genre that I think gets the least love. And if I'm to be honest, I don't mean to be disrespectful to anyone. I don't think is taken care of very well when they do come out with stories. I just don't think they hit the mark, and maybe because there's just some high standards with Lord of the Rings and certain tales. But I look forward to this. I like the character designs that I've seen a lot, and I'm you've earned my trust in the sense of you hiring talent, really quality talent. And I can't wait to see what the interiors look like. Um, so going to the next character.
So this is Madrakis Darthual. He is a creature very uncommon, known as what's pronounced a whir. Now, these creatures, they descend from an old being, only known as the Great Stormworm. And this thing is the equivalent to a kaiju-esque eel that lives out in the ocean. If you zoom in on his eyes there, you can
I
see a little
don't
bit of
think it'll let
lightning
me zoom
action.
in.
Won't
Yeah,
let you
there's
zoom out.
lightning there.
No problem. But he, much like a snake can store venom in its fangs, or a skunk can store the properties for that smelly defense mechanism it has. This fella Madrakis, in his gizzard, he can store up raw lightning, and for
Nice.
he has a limited reserve, but he can literally vomit lightning at things, which is really cool. Madrakis, because he's so unique and he's a large specimen at about 6'6", and he surpasses 300 pounds. Growing up in a town where there's not many people like him, he was usually used as some type of metric of if you were tough or strong, see how you fare up against this guy. Now, the one interesting thing, although he's wearing armor and has a blade, he has those things kind of to reflect his bloodline. He's read about the ceremonial bronze armor and involvement in the bloodline with clan and military. But the strongest thing about this guy is actually his brain. He has more brain than brawn, and he has a real affinity towards the arcane. So all of his armor, everything he wears, this whole persona, most of it is just to keep things away. Unfortunately, that usually doesn't work. It draws more negative attention, kind of the opposite of his intentions. But
Right. Very cool. And then we've got this character.
so this one was done by Erica Hollis in Chicago. Can you go back one back to Madrakis? I didn't talk about the artist. My apologies on that. So John Zalesnik, he painted this. This was hand painted. I have been looking at his art since the late 90s. He's done a whole bunch of video game covers, including Shinobi for the NES, that
Nice.
ninja on the front with the sword.
Yeah.
That's his work. He has had a lot of work through Magic the Gathering. And if you look at their cards, every card is basically a painting. It literally is just repainted or reprinted, obviously, on card. And I was very fortunate to get a hold of this fella. This is a very personal picture for me to get him to do something I created. All of these artists, I think I said this to you before, Phil, it's the equivalent of having like a band perform a song that I've written. That's the best way I can describe it.
Right.
But yes, on to the next picture. This is a fella named Chasgo Blundale. He is a very, very nefarious, or he comes from a very nefarious, strange hearing you not being our DM. That is a fella I am a game master for.
Cool.
So this is Chasgo Blundale. This is painted by Erica Hollis in Chicago. She doesn't have a Facebook profile, but on her, I believe it's Instagram, I believe she's got over 20,000 followers. This is a digital image. Chasgo is a race of elves. He comes from a race of elves that have a very bad reputation. And the reason for this is they live on and in a mountain range that is riddled with silver deposits. Because of this, these special type of elves, they're called Argers. Their skin is dyed blue and they have a high resistance to magic. They're, I guess, what you would class as, for lack of better wording, xenophobic. They want nothing to do with outsiders. So because of these dynamics, mercenaries and mages don't go near those mountains. This is a deadly, very primitive group of elves that they're extreme, just what is it? Extreme prejudice is the word I'm looking for. But anyways, Chasgo, he was a little bit of an exception to the rule. He didn't like, he felt his family was very dysfunctional. And one day, when on the mountainside, he came across a rook, a chess piece, and you can see it around his neck there as a necklace. He picked it up and he was blinded for a minute and approached by some being known only as Annette. And she felt she had aligned beliefs with him in regards to Argers, and she wanted to find a way. She needed a champion that could lead Argers away from the mountain, and he was going to be that champion. He has some magical gifts, and because these magical gifts were given to him, he feels that he would probably be killed, or they would at least attempt to kill him if he stayed in the mountain range. So he left. He ended up going to Ivywood, meeting people like Madracus and Dunnan, and the last fellow we'll talk about shortly. And they have a decent bond of friendship. Now, because of Chasgo's looks, there's many children's stories told about Argers. They're very dangerous, as I've already mentioned. So because of this, he actually has an ability to conceal his appearance. So in this picture here, he's entering a lit room and he's also putting on his human disguise. So currently he has a live, and now I'm stuttering, of course. Currently he's become a representative of a noble in Ivywood.
Okay.
It's almost the equivalent of an insurance collector or an adjuster, if you will. Part of his goal being this champion of this being that he doesn't know too much of is, if people accept me and then I show them who I really am, they won't be as scared as me, rather. So I think a lot of individuals, regardless of race or creed, can pretty much relate in one form or another to that. Well, I was really good at this and I ended up being a girl. Oh, I didn't know you're a girl. Well, does that matter, kind of thing? Or sometimes that's an issue with race or anything else. But I think a lot of people can see that with in Chasgo, the same dynamic of he has to hide who he truly is until he gains trust. Currently, the only people that know who he really is are the other three characters.
Now, before we go to the reveal, though, I want to go back
For sure.
and show everybody again. So this is the main cover by Jimbo Salgado. Do you have a favorite of the four?
You know what? I made them all up, so I don't want to sound like I'm copping out. I treat them all as one entity, so I like them. I feel they all have strengths and they all have, more importantly, weaknesses. There's a lot of characters that are made that don't have flaws, and it's very boring.
Right.
I am going to
agree.
do a shout out again to Tragedy, because your main character has flaws, and I find her very interesting because of that. A side note, if anybody looks on my Facebook profile, I did a review for the first 5 issues. Lots of fun. Just bought the book through your Kickstarter, all 5 in a collection.
Thank
But
you.
anyway,
We're here for you, not me.
going back to my characters here, all of them have flaws, and all of them bring something to the table of value. I think the most important thing about making this group was, if you're going to have somebody, think of some extreme where some 5-year-old makes this super squad, and they're all basically large, muscular men.
Right.
They're infallible, and I didn't want to get caught into having an addition just for the sake of having an addition. I wanted, if somebody was in this group, there, thank goodness we had that fella. I want the other three to think of that fella,
Right.
and for all four, I would prefer to have that dynamic. So to be honest, I like them all for different reasons. I can say with conviction there isn't one I like more than another.
Is there one that is a little more of who you are personality wise though? Because they say write from what you know, and sometimes you intentionally or unintentionally or subconsciously write a character that really is a lot of you.
Well, I'm very much an extrovert, so if we went with just that, the fella in the front is predominantly extrovert.
Okay.
He's referred to as a social facilitator, if you will. I think that would be the closest one I personally could relate to.
Okay. Very cool. Now, did you come up with all the character designs yourself?
Yes.
Yeah, I like them. They're good. They're good designs. Very good designs. And in a day and age where it's all been done before, it is hard to come up with something new that doesn't feel forced or contrived and feels different and yet comfortably, familiar or eye-catching. And I really think you did it. And I'm saying this sincerely. I think you did a nice job with the aesthetics of these characters to make them um, they're familiar as far as the setting of fantasy,
I appreciate
but at the same time they're unique and they're different with a really appealing aesthetic. So I mean, I'd have to say aesthetically, I really enjoy the half dwarf in the front. I forget their names, and
that.
the the dragon or eel.
In the
You
back.
know, right. But then again,
Yeah.
I love the blue skin elf. I mean, and we're gonna see the debut of the last cover there, the character. But yeah, I like them all, and I'm intrigued and interested in the story. Being a big fan of fantasy and really enjoying the character designs. Again, you were very smart. This is the first cover you should reveal. This is the one that I mean, Jimbo and Dan, they just boom, it smacks you in the face with talent, curiosity, energy. There's energy here. I mean, good job, very good
Thank
job.
you. One thing, like you already mentioned, as I already said, I don't have a favorite because they all bring something to the table. Visually, like you already said, I wanted to do the same thing. I really would hate it to be, although I'll use an X-Men parallel. In the 90s, at one point, they all had the same blue and yellow uniforms from
Right,
Wolverine to Gambit. And it's a
right.
really cool concept, but it
Takes away individuality.
yes, and that's a tough thing. If you're going to have a team, I understand uniform, but at the same time, the team doesn't have to have a uniform either.
Right.
One or the other, obviously.
Well, also, I mean, just delving into the individuality, where it does complement and where it contrasts is all part of the team dynamic anyway. And it also sets up scenarios and plot devices and in a natural setting where maybe someone goes off half cocked and makes it worse. Or or maybe someone was arrogant and thought they could handle something they couldn't, or and that's all part of character development and at the same time team dynamics and just makes an interesting story that, like, going back to what you said, they're flawed. We all I think right now they're writing everybody perfect and it's aggravating. It's like that's just no, it doesn't work that way, and it makes it's too convenient. They call it plot armor.
Yeah,
I don't like
whatever.
plot armor. I want to see people screw up and make things worse because that's what we do every day in our lives.
That's right.
Hey, Charles, what's up? So, um, we're gonna just show all the covers again real quick, and then we're gonna go to the reveal. So here's the Jimbo Salgado Dan Kemp main cover of the four characters, which are fantastic. I really
This
like
is
that.
this is Dunanini. It's done by Jenna Stark. That's Madrakis Darthual, who was done by John Zalesnik. And this is Chasgo Blundale, and this was created by Erica Hollis.
The art was, not the character.
Yes, the cover was made by.
So before we get to this reveal, everybody, just so you know, the launch is coming months away. It's coming fast. So if you're interested, get ready and get ready to support. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you like tabletop and RPG and fantasy, man, this is going to pique your interest. It piques mine. I want to ask you before the reveal, do you have plans to either make a tabletop game or a card game with these characters, or something that you can include these characters into an existing 5e or something like that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't say too much. Since we're on this cover, this is an excellent segue to what you just asked. Erica Hollis was referred to me, the creator of this cover here, by a voice actor I know in California. I've played with some professional voice actors in the past, and before we launch, I'm going to try and pull some strings and try a one-shot tabletop RPG with some pros, with credentials of voices in different cartoons and video games. I have also a trailer which shows about a page and a half, which involves these individuals. You know what? I won't say what they're doing, but I've hired a voice actor for that. The voices sound terrific. And in regards to elements with tabletop, in regards to Kickstarter, I have a fella named Warwick Doolan from Australia who's, as we speak, designing a tabletop miniature of all four of these individuals. You'll find that on the Kickstarter. And there'll be something else, but I won't give everything away yet. But more to come, and I'm really excited to share all of these details.
I need to talk to you about tabletop miniatures. So now we didn't discuss the last character that we're about to reveal, which would be this gentleman right here with this really interesting axe, right? So what is his name? What can you tell us about him? And then we're going to show you the last cover.
Right on. When I'm done describing him, I'll talk a little bit about the artist, and then we'll show, or should I talk about the artist as we show the last one?
If you want to talk about the artist, and then boom, we'll reveal. Okay. Or you know what? Talk about him, we'll reveal, and then you can talk about the artist and
sure.
Everything.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so this dwarf's name is Sarlacc Swamp Trudger. He has a very odd last name. Dwarfs usually have very bold statements for clan names. Now, I will briefly describe the family. These dwarves, they left the mountains. They left the miner life of digging for jewels and precious metals and decided to become farmers. But much like your cliche stubborn dwarf, these dwarves decided to start farming in a swamp. So over time, they literally terraformed and cleared out the swamp. On their borders, there are monsters in these swamplands, and because of that, throughout their family history, they became essentially a family of fighting farmers, if you will. They till the land and they protect it at the same time. Sarlacc, in specific, he's very devout to a creature or an individual only known as the Divine. He is very, very dedicated to this individual's teachings, and eventually he became so compelled to leave Ivywood, he decided to build a parish. Small, humble, but he wanted to be a good example, a beacon, if you will, a beacon of light in a city where any city you get large enough, you're going to have individuals that don't make the best of choices. So because of this, we literally have a holy man of the woods, if you will, living in the city. He has some divine influence that can be used through him. He has a lot of expertise of living out in the wild and tracking and dealing with things that go bump in the night.
Cool. And what is his temperament basically at this point?
Easiest description is a long fuse to a large cannon.
Nice. Okay, I like that. I like that. All right, so here we go. You ready? We're gonna do
So
the
this is
cover
not the
reveal.
colors. This is just the black and white. Colors will be shown next week. Dan Kemp, who did the first cover, he's going to be coloring what you're about to see as well. Go ahead.
Drum roll, please. Brrrr. Bam.
So here's Sarlacc outside of Ivywood. He is slaughtering a creature that was raiding incoming and outgoing caravans in Ivywood. So Dan Kemp has almost done this. I'm literally on the edge of my seat in anticipation how this thing's going to look. But with that put aside, let's talk about the line work from an artist who, much like John Zalesnik, has a lot of influence on me in my childhood. So the person who drew this is Javier Saltares. His most notable run was the second volume of Ghost Rider, where Dan Ketch took over the mantle, and eventually
Cool.
Johnny Blaze started hunting him down. That is one of the earliest influences of art through comic books that I had as a child. And I know I've already used the phrase of having a famous band perform a song I've written, but much like the other artists, but especially my history with this artist, it is a real full circle moment to have that man draw something that I created. It is I have the physical copy of this drawing. It was sent to me. I almost have all of them. I'm getting lined up for the last one.
Isn't that awesome when they come in the mail and you open them? Oh my God, what a great feeling, right?
I look at it and like what you're showing here, and I'm sure you've heard this cliche phrase lots of times before. The brush strokes, what you're looking at now doesn't do it justice. But to see, even in the bottom left, his signature done in the font that is literally on the cover of issue #1 of Ghost Rider, it is a really really special thing for me. The person this was based off of, we would have some him and haw about superheroes back in the time when I was reading these comics and or watching cartoons of superheroes like Spider-Man or Batman the Animated Series.
Right.
But for me, it just adds to that full circle moment. I was reading the comics by this fella. I was talking about comics with this other fella. This individual is loosely based off of the fella I'm talking about. And it is a really surreal thing for me to have this piece of paper. It's almost like a keyhole window, or it's like a child seeing Santa Claus, the back of Santa Claus as he goes back up the chimney. I don't know how else to explain it than that.
Oh, I understand.
It,
I tell everybody, with the exception, of course, of my wife and children, the greatest feeling I've ever had in my lifetime, and I mean, it eclipses all my childhood Christmas morning moments, is when original art from these major people that I really respect and admire, that I grew up loving their work, send my character art, my cover, and when those printed books arrive and I open them and they're in my
mm,
hand.
I'm
It
looking
is,
forward to that.
let me tell you something, Ray. When you do that, feel free to message me after and tell me how euphoric it is and just how cathartic it is and how just amazing it feels on every level that, holy crap, this is mine. I created this with a team, of course, but
Mhm.
these are my creations and this is my story. It came out of my head and now it's there to share with everyone. And
The talent to be able to
and
express
that's
it
and
in
that's
a
the
way I
thing.
could not,
And that's the thing when you see it at the level of talent that obviously you've invested in, it's just even the sweeter. There are some people that budgets are an issue, and I get that. I mean, we all have budget issues, but it's really hard. So maybe they just hired what they can afford, and maybe the artwork isn't quite there. But when you have that professional book in your hands, it's it's just special. I'm happy for you. I'm excited for you for that moment. So um, yeah, man, it's even better than when you get the art, and the art is great. So
I was hesitant to make variant covers for this first issue, and the only reason I did is I felt I wanted each cover to have relevance. I know there's your I'll do it again. Your book Tragedy. You've got a lot of covers, and people eat that stuff up. You've got manga covers, and you mentioned Jimbo did a cover. One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that it had yet another level of relevance. So in I guess a really good example, you go back to 1960s Marvel, each cover was usually an invitation to what was in the book. It wasn't just the art. And sometimes it might have words like, why is Spider-Man and Doc Octopus working
Right.
together and robbing this bank? I remember that one specifically, and I wanted to read that issue. The only reason I made these four variants is it's the first time you see these characters, so I wanted to just give them an individual spotlight.
Sure.
Issue 2, I may have a total of 3 covers,
You
but
know, it'd be cool.
because it was the first issue, I wanted it to be a statement, you know?
What about 3 connecting covers that make one big picture?
It has potential. I
Yeah. I have plans myself. So connecting cover of uh, connecting cover, and also in the vein of my jam pieces that I do, a jam piece cover that's going to have a bunch of different artists, big name artists doing each character. So I got some cool things planned, and I'm happy to share them. I don't feel like if anybody steals the idea, I don't care, because
what
it's about, for
what did
me,
go
it's
ahead.
about creating the best indie products possible so we can be taken seriously.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
we need to be taken seriously.
You've inspired me. What if we had one individual pencil all of them, then have different individuals ink the separate covers, and then have different individuals color them? So they're obviously the same, but at the same time different. I
I
think
love
that'd be
stuff
pretty
like that.
wild.
I love stuff like that. Yeah, and it's just different. And you know, someone asked me why so many variant covers. Honestly, 4 or 5 is plenty. And you do need variant covers for crowdfunding. I'm sorry, but you do.
Makes
Why
sense.
did I get 24? Because I love art. I just love art, and I
Well, I
wanted to
see
work with these
behind you,
people.
you've got a bunch of framed everything behind you. And I know you're
Yeah,
notorious for not giving up covers.
unfortunately, I'm going to be, but yeah. So, yeah, but I just love art, and I think these look fantastic. And again, you look at some books, and you look at the quality of the art, and I don't mean to be cruel, but it's hard. You're like, I want this person to succeed, and the story might be great, but it's tough when you look at that, some of the, what they put out as a cover, because we're trying to build trust.
Mhm.
We're not selling books, we're selling trust. That my money is going to a quality project. And to begin that trust, you have to have covers like you have. These are the covers that convince me my money is going to go to something that you put a professional thumb on.
Right.
And I commend you for that, and that attracts me to this, as well as great character designs. I really like this design a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big fan myself.
This is a great cover, and I remember you reached out to me and you were like, "Hey, dude, I got a Jimbo cover too," and you gave me the peek, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is wow!" And Dan just knocked it out of the park, like you said. I mean, you know, the wrong colorist can muddy up the lines and take a beautiful artist like Jimbo and make it look like just muddy and unclear, and it can totally erase the tight details and line work that he does. But a guy like Dan Kemp, obviously being a professional for so many years, I mean, colored over Capullo, he knows how to accentuate those lines, and
Hmm.
and true colorists understand the purpose of coloring is to color it so the eye is attracted to what you want them to look at.
Right.
Beautiful backgrounds are great, but do you want my eye looking at the background, or do you want my eye looking at the 4 characters you're trying to get us to know? Right? So
Mhm.
I mean, it says profession. It screams professional. So I cannot wait to see what this is like.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I've got so much to show off. Speaking of art, right now Sean Langley He is making a pinup for my crowdfund campaign. He's going to be, unlike these covers, which I showed when they're essentially done or about to be done. Sean Langley, I've given him permission to show pencils and inks as they develop. That one's looking really good. It's a very dynamic action piece of the four in the middle repelling. You'll see as he starts showing it off. But like you said, as you see these real craftsmen in their element, it's really awesome if they tap into what you're doing and you're part of what their legacy is. So I look at that, and I think I was already saying Javier Solteras on Ghost Rider #1 on the very bottom when it's colored in, it's in white. The black and white, the ink work, it's just black. But when you look at that cover and you see just the font of it written by that hand, and then when you look at in the bottom left of that image there, it's the exact same font. I can't describe how it's almost haunting. I don't know how else to describe it than that. You
Yeah,
see
I
somebody
agree.
that's more or less in your mind, at least in your mind, the equivalent of a celebrity. And they're always, you see them all the time. They never see you. And then you make up this individual big larger than life in your mind. And then suddenly this larger than life individual not just looks at you, but then you realize they're just human too. It's really cool.
I agree. I agree. See, and that's the thing is you can hear the fanboy in you as well. So, I mean, between your fanboying, your love and passion for the genre and the industry, and your desire for professionalism, you got everything it takes. Now it's just a matter of let's see how he writes.
Yes. We'll see how I'm happy to be put up for the test. So
This is what I tell everybody. I'm not going to tell you I'm a great writer or not. You buy the book and you tell me.
I
You
work with
decide.
somebody who says the opposite. He says he's a great worker, and if you don't believe him, ask him, and he'll tell you.
Now, the proof's in the pudding, right? Talk is cheap.
Yes,
But you can't tell me I'm good or bad until you pick up the book and read it.
this is true. And I guess another way of wording it, it's almost like here's the opportunity to prove me wrong, and until you do so, you can't really say
Right?
wrong. Yeah, I get you.
So, do you have a launch date set, or are you still kind of mulling it over?
Obviously, it's in 2024. It's going to be in the first quarter of the year. If we wanted to average that, the middle month of that first quarter is obviously February, but I'm not nailing it down to that, at least not yet. And the main
Okay.
reason for that is Dan Kemp, who has colored the main cover and will be coloring
The last one.
Javier Saltera's cover, or coloring rather. He's also doing all the interiors. I was so fortunate to
Nice.
get this
Wow.
individual of such expertise for literally decades to put his metaphorical fingerprints all over all of that work. It's just staggering to me.
Fantastic.
Once I have that done, which I'm shooting to have done for December, I have Micah Myers, who was two-time nominee letterer for the Ringo Awards, which is in the States. You can look them up. It's Ringo Awards is for different different levels of comic books: story, writer, artist, letterer, the whole bunch. He's been nominated twice, and I've said to him straight up, as you can see, Phil, I take the art, regardless of my skill of art, I take it serious. The person if it's worthy of a person, then it should be worthy of the person reading it. So the letterer, my goal, I've said to him specifically, is I want him to get the Ringo Award this time, and I'm going to work really hard with him to attain that through my book. So for selfish reasons, I want him to do well, but I also want him to do well for himself as well. Once that's
Absolutely.
done,
Well,
all I was going to say was once that's done, I will have the book in its essence. There's some potential of advertising in it. it's uncharted territory for me. And there are some groups I would be interested in advertising for, but that's a minor detail. In regards to, if I have everything colored and lettered by the end of the year, by the end of December, then I can, okay, I'm going to launch, this is going to be the date, kind of thing.
Yeah, I recommend get that, when you get approved for the campaign page and you've got that link, give yourself a couple of months to promote that link to get that following base up. It really makes a difference. It really does. Um, I can't I can't push enough to tell you that, people look at backer numbers, but the follower number is huge because you've
Hmm.
got your conversion rate. You've got
Yeah, yeah.
so obviously the more people that are following the campaign is going to be, and when you take 35% of 100, that's 35 backers. If you take 35% of 200, that's 70 backers. So
That's significant.
get that follower base up.
Right.
And then you can try to sell them because they're going to be there watching the campaign. So any updates you do, anything, they're going to see it.
Hmm.
Um, so definitely get that link and start promoting that link.
Definitely. I'm just looking up one thing. I'm speaking to a couple of publishers right now. Once that's ironed out, that might have an influence of whether I independently run a Kickstarter or not.
Right.
That is the only reason I don't have a link right now. Once those are ironed out in the next week,
Cool.
2 weeks at longest, then it will be decided who's doing what. And then I can start that momentum like you're talking about.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, how long has this been in the works?
2 years?
Nice. So you're being methodical, you're plotting, you're
Yes.
planning, you're doing this right. Good for you. Me, I'm a jump in and swing kind of dude. I just whatever happens happens. But my wife would side on with you. She says
The
I'm
one
too
thing
stressful.
the one thing I hate, and it comes from I'm part of the machining industry. There's always surprises. There's always things to look out for.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say I'm as pragmatically paranoia as, say, like the character Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Very,
Yeah.
very careful, if you will.
Right.
But in my mind, there's got to be some surprises. So if I need something done by the end of the month, or within a month, I might give a due date of 2 weeks. And then if the artist
That's how you
says,
have to do as a
"Hey, I
publisher.
need another week," all right, I I'm happy to give the time. They're happy I gave them the time, and I'm happy they're still in my deadline. It's win-win-win. So I've just been taking my sweet time with this. Um,
That's
I
how
mean,
you have
for
to
all we
be.
know, go ahead.
That's how you have to be. I do the same
Yeah.
thing. If I have a 2 month deadline, I tell them a month because stuff happens, family, health, other jobs, especially when you're indie. What if and you're working with people that are Marvel and DC?
Hmm.
You cannot be priority for them, and nor should you think you should be. Because Marvel and DC are paying the bigger money, and they're the regular client, and they're the big name, big experience, big exposure client. So yeah, you've got to give yourself leeway on your deadlines. Absolutely.
Under promise and over deliver.
Yes,
It reminds
absolutely.
me of that episode. And are you a Trekkie at all? You watch Star Trek?
I love the original series, and I know a little bit of next gen, and I watch the movies, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge Trekkie.
I'm a casual fan. My brother is a huge fan, but because of him, I did watch a lot of episodes because there's nothing better to do sometimes on a farm as I grew up as a kid. But there's one episode where Scotty from the original uh, Star Trek series, he was in the Next Generation. Insert reason here, time travel, Star Trek does that stuff. It was actually through something else. But anyways, keeping the story short, he's talking to the engineer in the Next Generation, Geordie LaForge, and Geordie says to his captain, I can have it done in this time. And then Scotty says later, so when are you actually going to have it done? Well, I gave the time. He says, you gave him the actual estimated time? Why do you think they called me a miracle worker? I would give them weeks away and then I'd have it done the next day. I would look like the man.
That's funny, and that's good. That's good. Yeah, I was always a Kirk fan because he has two mottos that he says in Wrath of Khan that I absolutely live by. I don't like to lose, and I don't believe in a no-win scenario.
Yeah, I can definitely respect that. You play to win, and regardless of the outcome, you should be able to walk away like I I I ran that race. I
Well,
played that game.
people
Even
who
if I
think,
lost, I did it. I walked away. So be it. That sucks,
but
but
it's
playing
more
to
than
win.
that. It's more than that. People who think there's such thing as a no-win scenario are people that think everything's supposed to be perfect and unscathed. Like for example,
Yeah.
if I lost my left arm, but I won the fight, I still won.
And you
I
got a
mean,
story with your missing arm.
yeah, but exactly. But
Yeah,
see, that's the
cool
thing is,
scars.
those who think it's all supposed to go perfect, the win is supposed to be a perfect win. They're the ones that fear the loss.
There's a Mike Tyson quote there. He says, "Everybody has a perfect plan until they get punched in the face."
Right. And but that's the point is you cannot win a fight unless you are willing to get hit in
I
the
got to take some
face.
hits. Yeah,
If you're afraid to get hit, you're going like this when you fight. You're not you're
I
not
got to
winning
take
the
some hits
fight.
and land. Yeah,
So I
I got
don't
to not
believe in a
flip.
no-win scenario. I just believe it's a matter of how much did I sacrifice to win, and if it was a worthwhile sacrifice to me, then I won.
Hmm. Yeah, I can respect that for sure.
Yeah, so that's just my outlook. You can win. You may not always win on your terms, but if you win, you win. That's it.
Yeah, win is a big deal. That's for sure.
Especially when you're trying to make your dream come true and live a life that brings you peace and contentment and fulfillment. Life has its ups and downs. It's moments, but if you get there, you get there. Just do it
I,
with integrity. That's all I say.
I like the analogy of the cliche king with a sword above his throne, and the sword is there just to remind everybody what he did to get to that throne. And if he really needed to, he could pull the sword down and do something, but he shouldn't have to by that point because he earned the point of hanging it on the wall.
Right.
And he had to go through an ugly amount to get to that point of not having to carry that sword anymore.
Right. I agree. And I'm fine with that journey too. And you look like you're on a good road and a good start. And I commend you. And I look forward to Madcaps when it comes out. So before we wrap up, congratulations on the fifth cover.
Thank you.
And um, please finish up. Tell us whatever you want to say. Give us your pitch or whatever you want us to know why we're going to be excited about this book.
Okay, so the best way to describe it without giving away the plot as of yet is like I said, I don't want to cozy it up with words like friendship and camaraderie, but with that said, everybody, the older they get, there's responsibilities that get in the way of seeing friends. It could be a job, it could be you moved away, kids, all of these variables. It's part of growing up in life. This story is an homage to I haven't seen everybody in 3, 4, 5 years. I'm going to see them for a 12-hour window. And when I go home, even though I'm exhausted, my very essence, my very soul will have had some respite. Will have some. I really needed that kind of thing. When you take when you take that dynamic, you apply it to a medieval fantasy setting. When you put it in a story, which again, the plot I can't say too much, but when you have these flawed individuals that all complement each other and they're friends, they know roughly how each other think. You can see these individuals that are not the most powerful beings in the story, in the world that I've developed. When they work together, their sum is better than their whole. And for anybody that has old sports friends, old friends from high school, college, when you did that one cool thing because you all pulled off that win, this this 3-issue story, which each issue is an act, is a reflection of that. The Madcaps, hopefully, It's obviously going to be in 2024. I'm going to say tentatively February, but I'm not nailing that down. I think that covers everything. I'm just really excited to finally be able to express this. Although I'm not, I wouldn't say a talented artist by hand, much like yourself, I am an artist inside first. And I've loved art since I could barely walk. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the result of this is.
Very cool. Before I do let you go, I have one other question. Protagonist is awesome, but what about antagonist? Are we? I mean, are
Um,
we gonna love the antagonist?
you know
Are
what?
we gonna hate him?
The antagonist. You know what? I will say one thing minorly about the plot. These four individuals are continuously playing catch up. They're 2, 3, 4, 5 steps behind. So because of that, uh, I will say you'll eventually run into an antagonist, yes. But uh, uh, what's the movie? Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. There's that
Mhm.
continuous phrase, "Who are those guys?" They're always being chased. There's always those cowboys, those bounty hunters chasing those two. The "Who are those guys" is the equivalent of the antagonist, except they're the antagonist is not chasing these four. There is a very mysterious dynamic, and these individuals are just catching on some breadcrumbs, some little shreds of clues of what is going on, which is first established in this first issue. So 2024, hopefully February, the Madcaps. Lots of talent behind it, a whole myriad of very talented artists. Very excited to see how this plays out.
I am too. I am very excited. Again, just your level of professionalism and the quality, how serious you're taking this, and the genre alone has me hooked. So you got me sold, and I'm excited for you, and I'll be there to support, and to share, and to help.
Thank you so
And
much.
if you haven't been following, DM Ray is his Facebook handle. If you want to drop your other handles before you go, people can start following, friending, etc., and you can get updates on Madcaps.
For sure. So right on, there's a page, the Madcaps. If you go to my DM Ray profile in the description, there's the Madcaps URL. I am on Twitter, Raymond the DM, and I am also on Instagram. The most action I'm getting right now is on Facebook, but feel free to hit me up on any of those other ones.
And don't just feel free to hit them up. Spread the word. Tell everybody else. If you have friends
Yes,
that are
please.
into this genre, they love this stuff, send them that way.
Yeah, you might not be a fan, but you may know 3, 4, 5 fans. Feel free to pass it on. That it would be give them the option to buy in or not interested, but for them not to have the option, that would be a shame. So yes, share, share, share. That's for sure.
All right, Ray. Thanks for coming out and doing the reveal. Very excited. Work looks fantastic. And Brad said, "Let's go, Nozimaj, Nasimaj." I don't know what that. Sorry.
That's an inside joke. If you watch it long
That's what I
enough, you
figured.
might be able to understand. I know who that is. Thank you. Yeah, shout out
Cool.
to a big three. There's so many people I could shout out to. You know what? Somebody will get offended, but there's three I know for sure. They know who I'm talking about. But I know there's other people watching too. So thank you very much, everybody, and please share. Follow the Madcaps on Facebook, and there I should have one thing weekly leading up to the launch of the campaign. Different types of add-ons, different types of. I'll be showing some interiors. The plot release will be. The plot will be released in. Bryce has no idea whether or not it's him or not, but anyways, um there's lots to share. There's a lot going on. I think the toughest thing, I said this to you, Phil, it is almost torture sitting on all of this content for so long and not being able to show anybody,
I couldn't do it.
not being able to talk about it. All of these covers, I started approximately a month back, starting to leak it online, and I started the page, and I was just like, if I had to do it any longer, I think I would burst.
I couldn't
So
do it.
just nice to I can finally start talking about this a little
Yeah,
bit.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. But kudos to you.
Right on. Okay, well, I really appreciate all of the hospitality on this and giving me the recognition and exposure that you've done, Phil. I'm going to pump you up a bit with a couple of sentences here. So, tragedy.
No,
I,
no, 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 no,
why
no.
not?
This is about you.
All
I
right,
can go
fine.
live anytime I want. You're very
All right.
kind, but I badger people over the head with my crap already. It's,
Well, make sure to
it's
follow
kind of
Phil. That's all I'll say. How about that?
it's kind of you, but this is about you. I don't like when shows use the guests to pump their own crap. When you go back and you're off the air, I could do a quick shout out and then I can move, and do it.
Gotcha.
But thank you.
Respect.
So DM Ray on Facebook, other social medias. Madcaps has a Facebook group page. Go follow that. Get ready for the campaign. If you like fantasy, if you like RPG, if you like tabletop, if you like D&D, if you like team camaraderie, if you like friendship, if you like flawed protagonists that you can relate to and you can be inspired by and motivated by, or even just connect with, Madcaps is going to be something that you're going to want to take a look at. All right.
In the chat, I've put in a direct
Cool.
link to the page.
Excellent. Thank you. I won't let me. For some reason, it goes to my YouTube and it doesn't go to the Phil Facebook. So
Gotcha.
excellent. Ray, I'll see you on the flip side. We pretty much talk on a regular basis, and I'm excited for you, and I'm excited for this project. Thanks a lot for coming out, and congratulations.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk soon. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. That is Ray Jameson, DM Ray. I'm going to show you his covers one last time if you came in late. This is Madcaps. This is Jimbo Salgado with Dan Kemp colors. Dan Kemp colored Spawn for like 100 issues. Forgive me, I don't remember the artists of the other covers. We're going to show you the characters. This is the main cover. That character, I love this character design. Very cool. And of course, we revealed it's black and white, but Dan Kemp is coloring it as we speak. And you will see the colored version of this cover within the next couple of days. If you are not following DM Ray, or if you're not on the Madcaps page, please go do so, because you will see the colored finished version. And that's about that. Before we go, very quickly, I'm going to remind you, Philbo Publishing, which is my company, we have about 11 titles out. And our current title is a horror. I call it a magazine. It's 156 pages. It is a big boy. And it's not just a big boy, but it is horror the way it was meant to be written. I mean, we're talking EC Comics, Tales from the Crypt, Creep Show, etc. I love vampires. I love zombies. Cthulhu, survival horror. I love all that stuff. But this is something that we haven't seen in a while in horror. And it's the best kind of horror because it's horror that could actually happen. It's a lot of realistic stuff. So real quick, we've got Ben Templesmith of 30 Days of Night and Tom Mandrake from Batman on this campaign. And it's horror, guys. It's adult. And it's 5 full-length stories by myself in black and white or full color or both if you'd like. We've got 4 variant covers. We've got samples. You go to the page, you can see. I'm going to be adding metal covers probably next week and metal prints of these covers. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to be adding some original art commissioned tiers by our artists, some of the artists even inside the book. So we're excited. The prices are low considering it's a 156-page magazine. It's huge. You can get art commissions from Kevin Stewart right now, who did one of the covers, and this is his quality of work. He's a big horror fan. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm small indie publishing, right? I do pretty good, thank God. Thanks to the fans, the backers, your supporters. But we can use your support. The more you invest in me, I can invest that money into even better products, even better hires. We work with Marvel and DC artists already. We can really up the ante if you support. All the money goes back into the company. You do not buy me dinner with my family or a truck. It goes into making the best comic books possible because I love this medium and I want to be that publisher that makes you excited to read comic books again if you've lost that excitement. And if you haven't lost that excitement, I want to add to that excitement. So Diary of Dread, it also has a 10-page preview by Marvel writer Charles Santino. He wrote Conan in the late 80s, early 90s. He has a 10-page horror preview story in this that will continue in volume 2. This is an annual. So please go back to support it. Don't wait. They don't take your money out for the 23 days that the campaign has left. So, and I promise you it's an investment worth your time and money. I know you work hard at a job that you're probably not happy with, and you work hard to be spending your money. And there's a lot of other options out there. But if you like horror, if you like something different, if you like twists you don't see coming, I think you'll be really satisfied with this book. But you have to back it to find out, even if you get the PDF. All right. Please go check it out. Please go take care of this and support us and pledge. All right. And leaving you off, just remember Madcaps. You can go to DM Ray's page to find all the info or go to the group page, Madcaps. Go support Indie. Indie is where the passion is, where the desire is, where new ideas come from. Go check it out. We're not corporate puppets. We're as passionate as you are about what we want to read and write and see. So please go support Indie. All right. I'm going to leave you with what I always leave you with. Be legendary and have fun storming the castle.